week on Storyboard, we speak to K Ramakrishnan, country head Kantar Worldpanel, and Andy Parkinson, global markets director Kantar Worldpanel, on some of the biggest consumer trends for this year and what makes Patanjali tick. We also speak to Chip Register, co-CEO Publicis Sapient, who says we are moving from being an agency holding company to a platform. How? We'll find out soon. Hello and welcome to Storyboard. This is Shivani Gharat. To provide marketers with insights about consumers and shoppers, Kantar Worldpanel has developed consumer panels that span many sectors, including FMCG, personal care, telecom, fashion, entertainment, and many others. Essentially, these panels monitor shopping and usage patterns of a consumer on a continuous basis to help brands adapt their strategies as per what consumers are up to. And Kantar Worldpanel also tracks monthly purchase behaviors of 81,500 Indian homes. And guess what is ruling the Indian households? Patanjali. To find out why, we speak to K Ramakrishnan, country head Kantar Worldpanel, and Andy Parkinson, global markets director Kantar Worldpanel, about how are FMCG brands dealing with Patanjali phenomena in India and the increase of health wave in the country. Let's take a look.
Andy, I begin with you. One of the sort of issues we're going to talk about is Patanjali. Now, have you ever seen a phenomenon like Patanjali in any of the markets that you have visited or covered in your entire professional career?
Not quite to this extent. I
Right.
have to say that the last 2 or 3 years you've seen local brands all over the world in lots of different markets really attacking the multinational players.
Right.
And I guess the combination of lots of little local brands is where they get impacted by the share. But the scale that I see from Patanjali over here, I've never seen in any other market now.
Right. Before we started this conversation, you spoke about a disruptive model that you saw in Jakarta,
I was in
of an ice cream brand.
Yeah, I was in Indonesia about 6 weeks ago.
Right.
And actually, I think as you go around different places around the world, you suddenly see the impact of some of these local brands. But
Right.
probably what's more important is how they do it. And what was interesting about this particular situation was an ice cream brand that had come in and actually gained the single largest penetration of all brands in Indonesia in less than 12 months.
Right.
And the way they'd done that was to have a new disruptive distribution model. So in fact what they were doing was selling into households so that households could then sell into the local neighbourhood network.
Right.
So slightly different model, great impact, and obviously some of the big multinational players who operate in the ice cream category suffering as a consequence of that.
Right. Before I come to Ramki, I'll stay with you. Patanjali is a mixture of, shall we say, some unfair advantages in the marketplace, which we can't get into, but a lot of it is jingoism and nationalism. And do you see that trend anywhere else? Or?
Oh, yes, hugely so.
Right.
I'm quite fortunate in that I actually spent 12 years living in Southeast Asia.
Right.
When I first moved there, which was sort of around 2004, 2005, I'd say people and consumers were hugely aspirational about multinational brands. That was really the desire, the aspiration. During that time while I was there, within multiple markets in Southeast Asia, whether it's Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, I think that's part of the secret behind the success of local brands is actually a sort of growing nationalism is maybe too strong a word,
Right.
but certainly a pride in things that are manufactured locally,
Right.
and also a confidence as well, because
Right.
when you're dealing with FMCG products, people need to know that they've got the right ingredients in, that they feel secure and healthy with them for their family, etc.
Right.
And I think that's grown exponentially actually throughout the decade.
Ramki, 1 year ago when we spoke, spoke about the reach and the distribution strengths of Patanjali,
Right.
which they were
Right.
sort of establishing.
Right.
And this year when you come back, you're suggesting to me that they've had repeat purchases, which is a ominous sign or a great sign, depending on whose side you're on.
That's true. Yeah.
So tell me about the purchase trends of a Patanjali.
Yeah, so it's absolutely interesting in the sense that obviously the reach is growing. When we measure reach by what we call as penetration, which is
Right.
number of households that gets into, and the penetration growth is not restricted to categories or super categories. So whether it's personal care, home care, or foods, we see a fairly stupendous growth for their for the households of Patanjali. But what's interesting is while on top of this growth of reach or penetration is also a growth in repeat purchase, which means if it's got into a household, it definitely stays there and it gets bought more. So the quantum of purchase in the second occasion is more, and the percentage of people who buy again is also very high. So these two make it a fairly potent force in the sense I have a very good reach and I also have people repeating my buying. So these are factors which I think are noteworthy as far as Patanjali is concerned.
Right. I'm going to provoke you and then come to Andy with the same question.
Yeah.
You see, the advantage that Patanjali seems to have over, say, a Levers or a Procter & Gamble is that you know it is Patanjali.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Which it's difficult to know in the packaging that this is a Levers product or there's a Procter & Gamble product. With Patanjali, you know, you've got these two faces on the packaging, and
that's true.
You know, is that an advantage which allows sampling in a width?
No, absolutely. I definitely believe so, because I think it's an instant recognition.
Right.
One doesn't need to think where it comes from or do I need to worry about it. So there's an instant recognition that helps Patanjali in its ability to penetrate households for new categories. So any category, as long as this name is there, I know the source. So I also start associating with certain properties, which I have it in my mind. So to that extent, it's a huge advantage for them to have a single brand across categories.
Yeah, and Andy, how do you react to that?
Yeah, I agree completely with that. I think as marketeers, everybody focuses on obviously brand building and making sure that products and brands have got meaning for consumers. If you can do that through a single brand proposition, that's a fantastic foundation to build a series of categories and other products throughout it.
While Ramki, I'll stay with you and get into FMCG in another world altogether, FMCG and e-commerce.
Right.
You know, there's some interesting trends which your World Panel study shows up in that. So can you share with us the India highlights of that?
Yeah, so generally when we talk e-commerce, the world has gone to town about saying e-commerce is booming, 3 times growth, and it's gone into small towns and stuff like that, but it's never been significant in grocery or FMCG. Now, what we notice now is that it's beginning to show. Now, so if we look at the universe of people who have bought products online, I mean, services, there are a hell of a lot of people. I mean, if you look at banking or,
airline tickets or whatever.
Tickets and whatever. But if you look at purely products, as high as 35% of the people who've ever bought products online have bought grocery. So, which is a very significant number compared to what it was a few years ago. Number one. Number two, but it's very strongly restricted to the metros, the higher SECs and the higher income group. Now, this is which is not like what the rest of e-commerce is, because the rest of the e-commerce they say is growing from the smaller towns.
Correct.
But it's more, our view is that it's more driven by the fact that e-commerce distribution of groceries is restricted to the bigger towns. I think the moment it starts going beyond, the story may be different.
Right.
The exact lack of distribution seems to drive e-commerce consumption from small towns for the non-FMCG products. Like, for example, if there's a particular brand that you want and it's not there in my town, I tend to go with e-commerce. But FMCG doesn't suffer that. It has a fairly well-distributed plan. So to that extent, it's anybody's game. But given that fact that convenience as a mode, convenience as a platform is growing, and the fact that distribution of the e-commerce players into grocery, into new towns is also increasing, I think we're seeing a trend that's going to increase further.
Right. And what's your experience in a larger geography that you've seen? What happens next? Are we going to see FMCG boom on e-commerce?
I think wherever you look around the world, you've got, obviously, it's a race that's being run at different speeds.
Right.
So you could go to somewhere like South Korea, where there is incredible technological infrastructure, and something like 20% of total FMCG is actually sold online at the moment.
Right.
And that's been the case for 10 years now. I think you've then got a lot of markets that are playing catch up. I think the exciting thing for me when I look at a market like India is that it's bucking the trend a little bit. So most markets work on e-commerce by feeding directly into households which have got computers in the home. What I see in India is obviously the impact of smartphone. And in fact, a lot of that e-commerce and the way that you will connect with consumers, both through retailers and through branding, will actually be on the smartphone rather than through perhaps the traditional route, which has happened in other markets.
Right.
So for me, I see India as a wonderful, exciting challenge, but also something that is sort of skipping the traditional trend and going straight to a device that communicates very directly with the consumer and the shopper.
Right. Ramki, a third trend that you've seen is the excitement of the health and fitness category.
Right.
So tell me about that. What are you seeing in health and fitness, and how does it impact marketers?
So from an FMCG angle, if we look at health, products which have a health connotation or variants which have a health connotation tend to get tried.
Right.
But the repeat rates are very, very poor.
Right.
So therefore, even when the penetration is growing, we are not seeing the same household repeating. The other way of looking at it is the same household which has bought a health product. What are they doing about indulgent products? Let's say carbonated drinks, let's say fizzy drinks and things like that. Those are increasing. So what the point that we are observing is that people are trying out health but are not sticking to it at this point.
So what is your take out? Why is that?
So I think
it's just a superficial dabbling in health, pretending to care about health, or what is it?
One is that. Second is that I think the toss-up between the taste and health is not yet been won by health.
Right.
So marketers have an option of making healthy products tastier or adding health to tasty products.
Right.
Which way they swing, we don't really know.
Right.
But either which way you look at it, if you look at health as an angle, they need to now focus only on penetration, because we are seeing clearly that more people are trying. So therefore, can they get newer and newer people to try and in the process add some stuff to what they already have?
Right. I'll close this with a question to both of you. With the speed of change, especially in India, it is crazy. I mean, like we said, we spoke 1 year ago about Patanjali. We're speaking again today. We should perhaps have been speaking about Patanjali every month. Is there therefore pressure on the people like Kantar to do a world panel kind of study with far higher frequency? Instead of coming once a year, is there a need for you to talk to us once a quarter or maybe even once a month?
I think the way that we certainly do the panel over in India is such that we're providing sort of monthly updates to our client.
Sure.
I think you're absolutely right in that what is paramount to our clients moving forward now is actually speed of delivering the insights into their business. And that's something that we hear a lot from all of our clients and that we are investing in, because behind the scenes what you may not see is actually the sort of investment levels on things like data collection technology, so speed of actually collecting the information, and secondly the delivery systems themselves. So I think you're absolutely right. Frequency and speed of getting those insights into clients' business is going to be very, very important moving forward.
Ramki,
Yes, so I think I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I think we have forever been under the assumption or the bubble that annual trends are good enough to share. I think
we're conditioned to it,
yeah,
in everything.
Yeah, so to that extent, it's high time that we start thinking about at the least quarterly trends, if not monthly for certain. I mean, I think there are enough happening around the world for us to be able to pick up trends every quarter.
Right.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Andy. Thank you, Ramki.
Thanks,
and let's hope we meet next month, or at least later this quarter, and not next year.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It is time for us to take a short break. When we return, we speak to Chip Register, co-CEO Publicis Sapient, who speaks of Marcel as a transformation to go from a group to a platform.